The smell of burning corn still haunts me, but not for the reason you'd think. Picture this, I'm standing in what used to be 40 acres of perfect heritage corn, now looking like a war zone, charred stalks crunching under my boots like broken bones, the acrid stench of gasoline and smoke burning my throat. Yeah, that happened. Security camera footage shows exactly who did it. Delilah Thornfield, my HOA president neighbor, strutting through my field at 2 in the morning with a gas can, grinning like she just saved the world. This lunatic thought she'd torched some hobby farmer's corn maze for a cheap thrill. What she didn't realize, my adorable little garden was a federally insured heritage seed preservation program for $2.1 million. She just committed agricultural terrorism on a multi-million-dollar research project. Whoopsie, right. Tell me, what would you do if your neighbor burned your retirement dreams for sport? Drop a corn emoji if you're watching from farm country. Let me back up a sec. My name's Ezra Caldwell. I'm 52, and about 6 months ago I thought I'd found paradise. My eccentric Uncle Silas left me 47 acres of prime Iowa farmland. We're talking black soil so rich it glows in the moonlight, earth that smells like rain and possibility. After 23 years as an agricultural engineer for Dow Chemical, watching corporate suits turn farming into spreadsheet warfare, my patent lawsuit finally settled. Let's just say it was enough to tell those bean counters exactly where to stick their quarterly projections. My wife Nora, librarian bookworm, dead tired of Chicago's concrete jungle, jumped at the chance to escape. Our daughter Iris, classic teenager, pretended to hate leaving, but secretly loved the freedom and privacy. Uncle Silas was a character. His old farmhouse was stuffed with leather-bound journals, decades of wisdom and pipe tobacco, documenting 12 rare corn varieties he'd been preserving since the Carter administration. Cherokee purple flint painted mountain glass gem kernels that sparkled like rainbow jewelry. Genetics most folks thought died out with disco. I contacted Dr. Rachel Yamamoto at the University of Iowa Extension, and the excitement in her voice almost made the phone vibrate off the table. These corn varieties hadn't been seen in research labs in a century. Boom, instant partnership. The university provides the science, I handle the dirt under your nails work. Rachel explained that USDA heritage crop insurance is nothing like regular farming coverage. Commodity corn goes for maybe $3 a bushel. But heritage varieties with unique genes get valued for their research potential, sometimes 100 times higher. So my annual premium was $200, which felt outrageous, until I realized I was protecting irreplaceable genetic material worth millions for research and medicine. Suddenly it seemed like the smartest investment I'd ever made. Enter our villain Delilah Thornfield, 47, recently divorced, relocated after her husband's insurance fraud conviction hit the news. She'd crowned herself president of Millbrook Manor Estates HOA, a cluster of cookie-cutter houses thrown up by a developer who skipped town before the paint was dry. Delilah ambushed me at the mailbox my first week, reeking of vanilla and barely contained rage, and launched into a speech about how agricultural activities impact property values in established communities. I pointed to my thriving corn dew sparkling like jewelry and said, "Ma'am, this land's been farmed since 1847. Your subdivision's been here since, 2019? She flashed a smile cold enough to freeze lava. We'll see about that. The harassment started immediately. Noise complaints about my 1982 John Deere at dawn. Apparently a diesel engine violates delicate suburban sensibilities. Zoning violations. EPA tips about illegal pesticides. Pretty funny since I run a completely organic operation. Every complaint died when county officials saw my grandfather clause protections and university partnership. But Delilah didn't stop. She'd walk my fence line daily, neurotic Pomeranian in tow, documenting imaginary violations while that dog yapped like a smoke alarm on meth. I started calling it the Daily Karen Safari. But the real warning shot came in July. I found fresh boot prints in 200 stalks showing herbicide damage in a suspiciously perfect rectangle. Herbicide? That's just overspray from my dandelion treatment, she told me, batting those mascara-caked lashes. Delilah, dandelions don't grow in rectangles. Are you accusing me of lying? I'm calling you creatively destructive. That's when it hit me. She wasn't your garden variety HOA busybody. She was unhinged and escalating fast. August heat wave hit air thick as molasses. Delilah seized on the township's new noise ordinance passed thanks to complaints from suburban transplants wanting rural Iowa to sound like a spa. She filed a formal complaint saying my equipment violated the 7 a.m. restriction. But farmers don't run on suburban schedules. Crops don't care if Karen needs her beauty sleep. I ran my John Deere from 6:30 to 7, finishing right when the ordinance kicked in. Legal as sunshine. But Delilah did her homework secretly recording my equipment with some fancy decibel meter, submitting a 40-page expert acoustic analysis to her cousin Garrett, the township compliance officer. Garrett showed up sweating through his polyester like a Christmas ham, wielding a clipboard like it was the Ten Commandments. Mr. Caldwell, we've received multiple noise complaints. Daily fines start at $500. I just smiled. Garrett, you might want to check Iowa's right to farm statutes before you start threatening farmers. His confidence cracked. What statutes? I'd done my research. Iowa Code Chapter 3, 152. Specifically protects agricultural operations established before residential development. My operation predated her subdivision by 72 years. Grandfathered status, noise exemption, the whole package. Garrett started scribbling like a student cramming for finals. You can't find farmers for farming on farmland older than your HOA. But here's where the plot thickens. While pulling property records, I discovered her decorative fence, that vinyl monstrosity she put up for aesthetics, actually encroached 3 feet onto my land. That's about $15,000 of prime soil at today's prices. I got my land professionally surveyed. Oh, it was beautiful. Served her with a trespass notice. She answered in a bathrobe that cost more than my tractor payment, face slathered in some green goo, waving my papers like they were contaminated. Your fence is on my property. 30 days to move it. Her shriek could have called hogs from 3 counties. Impossible. I had it surveyed. By who? Your cousin Garrett. Her face flushed red and green, real Christmas combo. But during that dispute, I noticed fresh boot prints and trampled corn rows leading right from her property. My security cameras set up after the herbicide incident caught her midnight adventures. 11 p.m., spraying something on my corn with the focus of someone marking territory. Next morning, more herbicide damage, this time in a pattern that spelled out, move, if you looked from her upstairs window. Subtle as a sledgehammer. I confronted her. Delilah, let's talk about your midnight gardening. No idea what you're talking about. Security footage says otherwise. $800 worth of heritage seed destroyed. Small claims, courts looking attractive. That's when she really lost it. Filed a harassment complaint with the sheriff claiming I'd menaced her with farm implements. Deputy Tommy Brennan showed up, hat in hand, apologetic. He grew up on a farm, knew the difference between farming and threats. I showed him the evidence. He whistled low. She's got brass filing false reports. That's a misdemeanor. What's your advice, Tommy? Document everything. This lady's escalating fast. Truer words never spoken. As Tommy's taillights faded, I spotted Delilah in her upstairs window phone pressed to her ear, looking like she was planning her next move. September's crisp mornings came, but Delilah was just heating up. With the noise and fence battles lost, she switched tactics, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Anonymous EPA complaints about pesticides. Totally false. I'm all organic. OSHA complaints about grain storage. My bins meet NASA standards. Even a revenue complaint, saying I was hiding commercial ag income. Each triggered mandatory inspections that devoured my time. Inspectors tramped my field's clipboards, multiplying like rabbits. But Delilah's cleverness backfired. Bureaucrats document everything. Digital breadcrumbs trace back to the source. I filed FOA requests, and every anonymous complaint led to her home IP. She'd created a fake army of outraged citizens, all sharing her unique spelling mistakes and creative agricultural lingo. I compiled the evidence timestamps, IPs, fake names, walked it all into the sheriff's office. Tommy nearly choked on his coffee. Federal flavor, huh? Filing false federal reports is a serious crime. The universe's sense of irony during the OSHA inspection, which I passed with flying colors. The inspector mentioned something life-changing: heritage seed preservation qualified for federal grants. He connected me with Dr. Susan Chen at the USDA. Within 2 weeks, I had approval for funding that turned my hobby into a legit scientific project. Delilah's harassment had accidentally bulletproofed my farm. Word traveled fast. Delilah stormed into the township meeting shrieking about fraudulent subsidy farming. The board farmers, business owners listened politely but sided with me. The contrast, her rants versus my university paperwork and scientific documentation. Board President Jim Morrison, farming since Nixon, actually laughed. "Ma'am, this is what these programs are for." But Delilah wasn't done. She cornered me in the parking lot, perfume mixing with grass clippings. "This isn't finished, Caldwell. I'll escalate to the state." Looking forward to it, I said. State officials love hearing from federal grant recipients. Her glare could have soured milk, but underneath the anger was real desperation. And sure enough, October arrived with its golden sun and crisp air, but Delilah weaponized real estate. She hired her cousin Randy, an assessor whose resume included real estate fraud convictions and car dealership scams. His report said my farming reduced property values by 23%. He used Comic Sans font, claimed agricultural odors harmed suburban tranquility. Delilah distributed copies to every neighbor, organized the Millbrook Property Owners Coalition, 8 households, 3 cats, and Randy's expertise. The coalition threatened a lawsuit calling my heritage, corn industrial farming, violating residential character. I got a real assessment from Henderson and Associates. Their report, Farming Heritage Increases Values by 12 to 18%. The bombshell, Randy's fraud conviction. The man couldn't legally assess a lemonade stand. Meanwhile, Nora, librarian extraordinaire, dug up something even juicier. Delilah's property had undisclosed contamination from a past auto shop. Oil, solvents, heavy metals leaching for decades should have been disclosed but was buried in paperwork. Now Delilah faced $80,000 or plus in cleanup, and suddenly her obsession with my farm made perfect sense. I requested a township inspection. Delilah responded like a vampire at sunrise, threatening lawsuit, sending lawyer letters, probably another cousin. The officer, Chuck Kowalski, a former Marine, went ahead anyway. Soil tests confirmed major contamination, property declared uninhabitable. Delilah cornered accused me of causing the mess through toxic farming. She claimed my organic corn somehow time-traveled to create petroleum contamination that predated me by decades. Township soil dating and chemical fingerprinting would expose her lies, but the investigation would take weeks, and Delilah was running out of time. November brought that bone-deep cold only Iowa knows. Sorting insurance papers. I realized my $2.1 million coverage wasn't just for crops. It covered genetic loss research, seed bank costs, biodiversity, you name it. Each variety was individually appraised. My Cherokee Purple Flint, worth $400,000 alone, not for the corn but the unique drought resistance gene. Meanwhile, Nora found out Delilah's mortgage was a balloon loan. Her payment was about to triple, and with contamination, no bank would refinance. She was staring down foreclosure, bankruptcy, and criminal charges. And here's where it really gets wild. My insurance agent, Maya Patel, explained that intentional destruction of federally insured crops triggers FBI investigation. Agricultural terrorism. 20 years in federal prison, 3 times damages. My cornfield wasn't just retirement, it was a national seed bank with research pending grants, and the FBI doesn't mess around. Delilah's attacks were escalating: nighttime visits, digging in contaminated soil, maybe trying to plant fake evidence or hide her own tracks. Maya warned desperate people do desperate things. We upgraded our defenses. Rachel Yamamoto brought in genetic sequencing data. Chuck covered environmental evidence. Maya explained federal crime protocols. Tommy coordinated law enforcement. Security cameras, soil monitors, seed backup at the university. Every kernel documented, DNA mapped and secured off-site. Meanwhile, Delilah's mortgage reset was weeks away. She was facing foreclosure and no way out but through me. The farming community rallied around me. Heritage crop protection is a big deal in Iowa. Chuck's night cameras caught her digging after midnight. We were ready for anything. Then January hit cold enough to freeze your teeth. Security cameras caught her first sabotage attempt, releasing European corn borer insects, illegal in Iowa federal bioterrorism charges if they'd survived. But the bugs froze. Still, the FBI was now all in, watching her every move. By February, Delilah tried to bribe Garrett, her cousin, to file false reports against me. What she didn't know, Tommy had him under surveillance for months. The whole bribe was caught on tape. Now the feds had her for bribery, bioterrorism, environmental tampering, and more. Social media rumors, fake accounts blaming me for chemical leaks, doctored photos, digital forensics traced them all to her phone. Then spring thaw revealed her attempt to dump motor oil near my irrigation planning to claim my farm caused it. Federal environmental agents moved in. Now she was facing conspiracy and evidence tampering charges. Her final move, arson. The FBI intercepted calls with her Garrett and her ex-husband Dwight, planning to torch my fields during the Millbrook Heritage Festival while blaming me for faulty equipment. The FBI allowed enough rope for her to hang herself, caught everything on camera, audio, paper trails, even a confession to Maya undercover about her whole plot. Festival day came, sunny hundreds, gathered TV crews, university researchers, state ag officials. The night before, federal agents arrested Delilah and her crew as they poured gasoline through my field. Minimal damage, my heritage corn was safe. But Delilah showed up at the festival like nothing happened, tried to commandeer the mic and accuse me of fraud and contamination. Dr. Yamamoto took the stage. Genetic sequencing confirmed 3 extinct varieties recovered. $2.8 million in research grants secured. Heritage preservation saves our future. Then Agent Chen from the FBI announced federal charges: terrorism, insurance fraud, evidence tampering, conspiracy, over $8 million in damages. The crowd, farmers, researchers, families turned on Delilah in a heartbeat. State officials designated Millbrook the premier heritage crop preservation center, pledging research funding. Environmental Officer Chuck confirmed all contamination was from previous auto shop owners, not my farm. Insurance companies canceled her coverage, banks foreclosed, the feds seized her assets. Delilah got 18 years in federal prison, $8.2 million restitution property, forfeited for environmental cleanup and research. Garrett got 5 years for bribery, Dwight for conspiracy. Millbrook Heritage Seed Center opened that spring, $2.8 million in funding, 40 researchers, national recognition. Uncle Silas's corn is now in the Smithsonian. Nora runs a rural library branch for ag research. Iris got a full ride to Iowa State to study agricultural engineering. We even started a scholarship for rural students to protect heritage farming. Today, this land buzzes with researchers, school groups, and tourists. Our story became a model for other communities. Heritage farming isn't just nostalgia, it's the future. And as I watched those golden stalks sway in the September breeze, I realized we didn't just save our crops, we preserved a legacy. So if you've got your own HOA nightmare, drop it in the comments. If you learned something, hit that subscribe button, because trust me, these justice stories are just getting started. The breeze carries the scent of history, and the lights from the university remind me community and science beat greed every time. That's a wrap. If you enjoyed seeing Karma served Iowa-style smash that like button, share your thoughts, and let me know, have you ever faced down HOA madness? Subscribe so you don't miss the next meltdown.